Hey guys, I hope you're well. So, after what's it been, 7, 8 months? Looks like we've finally got an update on the Tory Woods case. And it's a pretty big update. I do have a lot of information to go through. I'm going to try and make it quick. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I would highly recommend you look at the other videos on my channel. I think it's the only topic that I've covered on my channel so far. But yeah, you can bring yourself up to speed. I actually go through all of the legislation and provide updates as it's been going on. But as I says, we've had radio silence for months, more than half a year. And at that point, all I could really do was speculate. I actually think I was starting to speculate. Oh, maybe the case has been sealed for some reason, and it's just in sort of closed court now. Because that can happen for a number of reasons, especially if you're protecting someone's identity. Say there had been a victim or something, because at the time they were going through our electronic devices. Now, to my knowledge, nothing was found on those devices, thankfully, because this is a big enough shit show. She's already in enough trouble. So what has been happening? Now, Tori Woods, whose real name is Lauren Tesolin-Mastrosa, I'll quickly summarise. She was arrested and charged with possession, production, and dissemination of child abuse material based on a book that she wrote. Now, based on the little snippets that I've personally seen, I don't think she's going to get away with this. But I'll leave that to the end when I'm wrapping up. Let's try and get through all this information first. Now, it looks like she has sacked her previous lawyer, and she has brought in the big guns. A high-profile former Crown prosecutor, Margaret Cunneen. Now, this is a lady who's normally on the other side pointing the finger. She knows the law pretty well as a Crown prosecutor. But the defence is very weak still. Like I says, just Hail Mary. Hail Mary. I don't think it's going to make a difference, especially when you look at the wording of the legislation. Alright, let's go through the defence. Right, Cunneen focused on the fact that the arresting officers had not read the entire book before the arrest. I don't think that really matters. If they've got enough to charge her, then they can arrest her and charge her, and then as the case goes on or before it gets to court, then they can continue to collect evidence. That's just how it works. What else? Lack of training. Under cross-examination, Senior Constable Liam Matson admitted he had no formal training in identifying child abuse material. It's the kind of thing you'd think it was pretty obvious. Don't you think? And police found zero real-world child abuse material of any on any of her seized devices, so the case relies solely on the fictional text. Fair enough. Let's see, defence's arguments. It frames the book as a DDLG, which is Daddy Dom Little Girl erotica. It's a known kink, I suppose, in book talk. Definitely in book talk. Go into any of their lives, you're going to hear some shit. I mean, you're going to need therapy. Oof. Anyway, that's a pretty weak defence, and it's a bit of a risky one. Like, that's a risky move, especially given that the reason she was arrested was essentially for, well, again, I'll just go into it at the end, right? So, it's framing the book as DDLG, which is a consensual act between adults, I guess. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the defence. And then again, relying on the whole fact that it's fiction rather than a real person. But as I covered in my last video, or the video before that where I broke down the legislation, that doesn't matter. it's quite clear in Australian law, fiction counts even when there is no victim. And I think the reason for that is because it's promoting or glorifying child abuse material. Or normalising it, I guess, in a sense as well. Prosecution, like I just said, doesn't matter if it's fiction. If a reasonable person would be outraged, it meets the threshold. Age ambiguity. Now, despite the character being labelled as 18 in the text, there are sexualised descriptions of the female main character as a toddler. Doesn't look great. And I think that's what's going to fuck her. I think that's what's going to get her just buried under the jail. Yeah, that was the next on my notes. Focuses on the graphic descriptions of the toddler's anatomy, which is a clear violation of the law. And what I was saying before, if a reasonable person would be outraged, well, reasonable people were outraged. It was the beta readers that were reading it and were like, no, this is no good. Straight on the phone to the cops. So, let's see. What do I think's going to happen? DDLG, very poor optics, because again it glorifies, normalises and promotes it, even though it's just role play. It still normalises it in a sense. So that's going to get her into trouble. In the Australian courts, they will use jail time as a deterrent. They will absolutely use jail time as a deterrent. Despite this new fancy high-priced lawyer that she's got, the defence is just as flimsy as it was when the case first began. It's changed nothing. The only difference is this one actually knows how to attack the police, in a sense, and question the procedural parts of it, whereas the previous lawyer wasn't doing that. So we'll see if that works. I don't think it will, because the evidence, the book, is pretty clear. I do think she's absolutely going to get convicted. Whether or not she sees jail time, I don't know. I think as far as I'm aware, it's a first offence. And they might take into account the fact that there was no real life victim. But at the end of the day, under the legislation, which again is very, very clear, she's broken the law in several counts, both production, dissemination and possession of what under Australian law as child abuse material. So I just don't think that she's going to get away with it. I don't think she's walking out of there in the clear. Again, attacking the cops and their lack of training because they're not qualified to know what counts as child abuse material. Well, I would think anything that's exploitative, which pretty well covered, you know. Yeah, I still don't think she's going to get away with it, even with a high-priced lawyer. I think it's a desperate move. It's just a Hail Mary, and I don't think it's going to work at all. But we'll see. The courts don't really kick off again until after February or partway through February. So I reckon this is going to be her last hearing, this one here. And we're going to see a verdict the next time she's in court. And I assume that's going to be, well, this case has already been going on for over a year, or a year thereabouts. I'd imagine they're going to want to get it over and done with now. So I think within the next month or two we should have the verdict. and it's going to set an interesting precedent, you know, both for dark romance as a genre in Australia. You know what I mean? There's going to be a lot of authors over there that are thinking twice before they hit publish now. They're going to be looking back with a level of nervousness when they're looking at their back catalogue thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't have published that. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Once the verdict comes in, I'll let you know, and then we can discuss it further. Stay safe, be careful what you write about. Have a good one.